Carey, thank you for being here, taking the time with us. Yesterday was the championship. Team Canada won. Any good memories from that?
Oh yeah. Well, actually, so I have a friend who is the equipment manager for Team Canada this year. I grew up with him in Williams Lake, played hockey with him growing up. So he was on the team this year, so I was really excited for him. I got to see him on TV. He's pretty pumped about it, so really happy for him. And then it reminded me a lot of back when we were in Sweden. We had our tournament in Leksand, and brought up a lot of memories. And I just can't believe how fast everything went by since then. Just seems like just a few years ago that we were over there and enjoying that moment.
Micro plus haut? Okay, parfait. It's not like you're a loud talker anyway. What does it remind you? Because we were watching highlights today, like the year when you went in the shootout and all that. Do you think this is where you became, or that was the beginning of becoming a star in your career?
That was definitely a big stepping stone. It's like last night watching that game. When Czechia tied it up, I just gave me that kind of nervous feeling, and it brought me right back to that shootout moment. We were going through overtime in the semifinal, and it was it just brought me right back to that moment. So I think it was definitely part of it. I think it kind of helped accelerate my my development into becoming an NHL player.
When you look at Connor Bedard, you see him impressed. He was impressed so much in the tournament. You see him being Crosby or a guy like that. Can we say his name with those guys?
I mean, it's he's right there. Just being just the way he just his composure with the puck. He's so shifty, the way he uses his edges, and just the way he can see the game. It's like a generational talent. It's really fun to watch. It's something that really reminds me of Lappy when he was playing.
Yeah, right. Really composed, right? Good memory. So that's really nice. We're talking about Team Canada, and when you make that save in the shootout, I think I never seen you have so many emotion. You're jumping, you're taking your gear off. Would you say, except maybe for the Cup Final a few years ago, that's your best moment in your career?
Yeah, for sure. It's just a relief, that shootout was just how it played out, goal, it went so long, and I Mueller, the American there, he played in Everett, so we played against him all the time. I'd been against him in shootouts during the regular season, and he scored on me 5-hole during the regular season earlier that year. So I was the first two times he went, I'm he's going to go 5-hole. He's going to go 5-hole. So I was just kind of sitting on a pitch waiting for it. And it was just a relief,
Yeah, because we listened to it this morning, and Jack Johnson scored same goal twice.
Yeah, low blocker.
Same shot, low block. It was fuck.
Yeah.
How bad is that?
Well, it's I understand, playing in that tournament, I understand what the pressure's for those kids. There's a lot of pressure on the kids, and for teenage guys, that's a lot of pressure to put on them. It's fun, being in that situation. That's kind of why we play. Part of the reason we play the game and what makes it so much fun. Being able to succeed in an environment like that, and but when it's over, it's just oh, thank goodness.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure at a young age, and we want to know, we always talk about Carey Price, so good everywhere we see it's good results, but when you were younger, were you always that good, or did you try other position as a hockey player, or you were just born to be a unbelievable?
Because you got a good shot.
Yeah, you got a good shot.
Yeah. Well, my dad was a goaltender, right? So he was drafted by Philadelphia back in the 70s. So I think I always subconsciously wanted to be a goalie, but I kind of started out on the backyard rink being a goalie, and then when I started playing minor hockey, organized hockey, that's when I actually played defense. So I think I wanted to be like a Bobby Orr type of defenseman. And
yeah, we've seen you skating. I think a good decision being in that.
Yeah, right. So I don't know. I played defense for a few years, really young. I think it was really good for me to help develop my skating a little bit. And then eventually I changed to being a goalie. There was one day we didn't have a goalie for a game, so I went in there and played really well and kind of, I was like, oh, this isn't so bad. Maybe I'm crazy enough for this after all. So so we just kind of went from there. And
because that was pretty crazy. Like you were driving, I think, like 300 kilometers, like 3 times a week, like 10-hour drive. Well, get us through that a little bit.
So when I was really little, I grew up in Anahim Lake, so it's really kind of like a remote area in BC. The nearest minor hockey would have been Williams Lake, so that was about a 3.5-hour drive in the winter. So my dad had his pilot's license, so we were doing that commute. We practiced Tuesday, Thursday. We'd go to a hockey tournament over the weekend, so we could log hours in the car. Me and my dad spent a lot of time in the truck and in the car. So, eventually, my dad had a pilot's license, so he enjoys flying. So we bought a Piper Cherokee, small, really small airplane, like low wing, like, feels every type of breeze you could imagine. And so we would fly to hockey practice sometimes. And that would take, with a tailwind, it would take about 45 minutes. With a headwind, it would take, an hour and 15 minutes. So it really cut down the commute time. So it was a lot of time in the car, but I really look, back on that pretty fondly.
But how many hours you think you were spending like with your dad on the creek?
Oh, so we had like the typical Canadian backyard rink, right off the back porch. But we also, where I grew up, I grew up on a 33-acre, it was like a kind of like a hobby farm kind of thing.
What type of place was it? Because you're talking about the plane and all that. So if there's no rink, was there like restaurants? Was there like just nothing?
Well, we had the Dutchman Cafe, which is about it. So it's, growing up, like Anahim Lake, I think at the time was probably about, 3,000 people, which is, the lumber mill was going, like the lumber industry was booming at the time. So we had a lot more, job opportunities out there. So it's, there's not much. There's like a couple of general stores, a band store, there's a band school and, the public school there. So I grew up on a 33-acre property that was about, about 6 or 7 minutes from downtown Anahim Lake. And, we had a creek that went through our property, Corkscrew Creek. And I grew up like fishing on that creek, and in the wintertime my dad would shovel it off every once in a while, and I would shoot pucks into the riverbank.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
You must have been the when you arrive at Tri-City or Montreal, it must have been a big change for you, like the routine and the way of living, like it.
Yeah, for sure.
Was it positive or negative?
Two restaurant beside.
No, but wow. Like for me, I'm a city guy. If I would go live in the woods and have to fish, I would be bored. Is it the same and the opposite, or?
It's a little like so like when I go fishing and stuff like that, that's like something that is really fun to me. Like I remember growing up when we would drive from Anahim Lake to Williams Lake, and we'd arrive at night being able to see all the street lights in town. Williams Lake isn't a big place. It's like 10,000 people. And just, I felt like I was going to the big city,
That's unbelievable.
You have your dad was drafted by the Flyers, and you had your cousin is Shane Doan. Do you have any other cousins that play in the NHL or good hockey?
Yeah. So I have another cousin, Brett Shufflemeyer. He played Medicine Hat. He is a couple years older than me, and I actually went elk hunting with him this fall. And so he played Medicine Hat for, I think, 4 years. And he is the penalty minutes record holder for the Medicine Hat Tigers. Oh, yeah. So I think when he finished playing in Medicine Hat, he went to Worcester to play there, played a little bit in the American Hockey League. And so eventually the Medicine Hat Tigers, they gave him the penalty box bench out of the old arena, so he's got that at his house.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
They gave me the part of the bench where we're sitting on at the Bell Center.
In the middle?
Yeah, right in the middle.
You have a statue of Jacques Martin too? Or?
I remember one time my mom told me, I think the coach loves you because on every picture you're always sitting in front of him. I was like, no, Mom, it's because I don't play and he's in the middle of the bench. Okay, that makes sense. Get us through like your junior years, because you're getting in Tri-City and all that, and we want to know like what does it represent for you to play in a USA team but in the WHL, because we were looking at the map, there's a lot of traveling there.
Yeah. So I was drafted to Tri-Cities, and I didn't really know where that was. I knew I wanted to play in the Western Hockey League because my dad played in the Western League. And, the Western Hockey League has a pretty good school program, being able to provide schooling if things didn't pan out. So I always was kind of like, well, I think this is the direction I want to go. And at the time, I'm like, pretty high prospect. I got drafted in the first round of the Western League. So it's like, I think this is the way I wanted to go. And I hadn't really spent a whole lot of time in the States before. I was a long ways away from home. It's like 13 hours away from where I grew up. So I was excited to go, progression in your hockey career. You're a young guy. You're like, okay, this is what I wanted to do. And so I get down there, and my first training camp, and I feel like I just felt like it kind of fit, ever since I got there. It's like Tri-Cities is a really big, small town, basically. They have everything there, but it's really it's slower paced, So I think it was a really good stepping stone from going where I grew up into going to Tri-Cities and then going into a big city. So when I was in Tri-Cities, I lived with the same family for 4 years, the Williams family. It was a perfect billet setup for me because they were, Dennis, he's a good old boy, he's a hunter, he fishes for walleye. Really where I kind of got my feet wet walleye fishing was with my billet dad. He was a military police officer in Vietnam, really like kind of
good
black and white, like, follow the rules. So I think he really like helped, kind of keep me in line, because if I was a minute late for curfew, he was calling the coach, Yeah. And then, Jill, she's just like such a caring and loving person that always looked after all the billet kids that came in. So I think my parents were very comfortable with me leaving to go live with them because they had good values.
Who's Carey Price at that stage? Are you a hard worker? Are you training every day of your life? Or are you just playing on your highly skilled?
Well, I think it's a bit of both. I don't think I don't know. I feel like back then, I don't know. I don't think it was like so like kind of highly like micromanaged as far as like sports nutrition as it is today. Like the kids today are so much further developed than I think we ever were when we were in junior. Like
big time.
I think we trained, but we like diet and like it wasn't anywhere near as close as it is today. So I think I was largely relying on skills and talent at that time. I don't think it wasn't until the second half of my junior career, kind of getting prepared to play pro, wasn't until I started really like, okay, this is there's another step I have to make, especially after my first couple of years pro. I was like kind of really awakened to like, okay, we're gonna have to take another step here.
Yeah, for sure. We'll come back to that later. You got a few good stories.
When you see the experience you had in the Tri-City, and you see the kids now like choosing their team, saying I don't want to play there, like if you choose you would go Vancouver, things like that, are you not disappointed? But what would you say to those kids and agents? Like you live something special going to Tri-City that some kids don't do because they say, I want to play in Rimouski or I want to play in Quebec, that you don't live when you go in Val d'Or. And what would you say to those kids? Like it's an experience that sometimes you don't really see when you're young.
For sure. I think like it's different. Like, I feel like players are taking more control of where they want to go. Like it's just like when I was a kid, I couldn't imagine like saying no to an opportunity to go play somewhere. Like I was drafted by Tri-Cities. It wasn't the best team in the league, but I was thinking, well, this is a great opportunity for me, and like it's another step in my life. Like, if it doesn't work out, you could always get traded after. Like I don't know, but yeah, I just when I was drafted by Tri-Cities, I just thought, man, what an opportunity to be able to go on and play, you know, the Western Hockey League and further my career. I wasn't thinking, no, I don't want to go there.
No, and we see that more often now, though.
Yeah.
The kids
It's impossible for those teams.
We see it in
to
the
win
NHL.
or anything else.
Yeah.
We see it in the NHL. Guys are like, man, I'm not playing there. I'm not signing. That's weird. I want to hear you now that like the transition, the draft, the scouts are starting to look at you. We want to know about the interviews. You know, we met a lot of teams, but you probably met every single team. Did you think at one point you weren't going to Montreal? Did you think you were going to go higher, lower?
So I think I'm trying to remember. Back when I was in Tri-Cities, I think I had 2 scouts come see me in Tri-Cities. One was from Atlanta. I think the other one was from Minnesota. So like Atlanta showed a lot of interest in me, and to fast forward to the combine, which is where you have all your meetings and everything. I think I met with about 13 or 14 teams, kind of all the top 15 teams. And out of all of those teams, I think Montreal was probably my most difficult interview.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I think, they were asking like tough questions. I think they were kind of seeing how I was going to respond to, the media. I remember one question was like, you have a tendency to let in a bad goal every game. And I was thinking to myself, what?
No.
So I think my response was like, well, I don't know if I agree with that, but I know that I think I responded pretty well. I was like, I said, I guess it's something to work on or something like that.
That was Trevor Timmons? Was it the
no?
back then?
It wasn't Trevor. It was another person. I can't remember who it was, but I remember it, like that whole interview. I was like, oh man, this is tough. So then like going fast forward into the draft, and like when Montreal picks, I'm thinking right back to the combine, thinking, I wonder if that interview went well or not.
Were you when you were putting your title that morning of the draft in your head? We always think we're going somewhere. Yeah. Where were you going in your head that day?
I kind of like honestly, I thought either like I think Minnesota picked right before me. Like I thought that might have been
they took Ben Pouliot, right?
Yeah, they took Benny. Then Montreal picked. I was very unsure about that. I didn't know. And then I think Columbus picked right after me. They picked Gilbert. So I thought maybe Minnesota or Columbus. Wow. And a big maybe for Montreal.
Yeah, because were you surprised like when you get to your first camp, they have a goalie like José Théodore who won like all trophies and everything. You get there and you're like, am I going to play in this league? Like when am I going to get the chance?
Yeah, for sure. So I remember the first time I got to Montreal, I was like, man, this is what, like, you talk about going to a big city. This is next level. And when I got to camp, it was like, I went to that summer development camp and thinking, holy cow, this is so hard. Like those development camps, they work you so hard. And I'm thinking, holy smokes, this is another level. And then I get to rookie camp. I feel like I had a really good rookie camp. And then go into main camp, and everybody treated me so well, especially Jose. Like he was just like treated me so well, like very first class, like and it's just like kind of like it really helped me feel a lot more comfortable. Like all the vets at that time were very welcoming, so that helped a lot.
We talk often about guys like Slavkovsky or Wright in Seattle. You did that transition to go play a little bit in AHL. And we won the cup together, but that year was it?
Okay, just throw it there, Max.
Drop the mic.
Just throw it there.
No, but like it was a good moment for him as a young guy. But like if we look back, it's a lot of pressure to come in, and you just move the 2 goalies that were there all year, and you get in net and win the championship. How did you feel like that first day when you came in Hamilton?
Yeah, so I signed that was been my 19-year-old season right at the end of junior, and. So I signed my first pro contract right after we lost to Seattle. So then I go to Hamilton. I think we had like 3 regular season games left in the season, and I think I played like 2 of them, and it went really well. And Yarrow and Yan Denis were the 2 goalies there at the time, and I believe Yarrow went to go play in the World Championships.
Yeah.
So it kind of opened the door for me, and they they just basically just handed me the reins after having 2 decent regular season games. Like, okay, well, I don't really have much to lose, I'm just going to go out there and play. And
I'll tell you right now, I think they told Yarrow to go to the World Championship.
Yeah, it was fun though. Like, we played, I think, the Rochester Americans in the first round that year, and I was rooming with Phil Sauvé on the road, so I had a veteran goalie, played in the NHL. Really, like it's just really grateful for that time to be able to spend with him, because he gave me a lot of insight and was a really good guy to like talk to, and it was a lot of fun being able to spend some time with a guy who's been around in the league for a while.
Yeah,
but then you guys win the Calder Cup. In your head, are you like, okay, September, I'm playing in Montreal, I'm starting the next season there?
I didn't know. So my dad came and talked to me at some point that right after that, and I think Trevor Timmons had talked to my dad, and he said, one thing that could keep you out of Montreal is your fitness level. So like, I think when we won the Calder Cup, I was about 255, 260. A pretty big guy, like no holes.
No,
you couldn't get a puck
except in the middle of your donuts.
Yeah, so that summer I spent a lot of time working. I think I started going to Calgary to work with Eli Wilson, the goalie coach there. And I was working with Doug Crashley at a fitness gym, and I think I got down to like about 230. It was just kind of like where I felt pretty comfortable for most of my career. So when I got to training camp that fall, I felt pretty good. I felt like I had a pretty good opportunity, because I think Cristobal had taken over the reins by then.
Yeah.
So it was kind of up in the air. Yarrow was still there, so it was kind of, who's gonna have a better training camp.
Well, you're talking about Yarrow, and that was later in my subject. But how did you feel? How did you live that moment where it was the whole like Price Halak battle? I remember, like we say it often on TV, that you were an unbelievable teammate. Like you were talking to him, you were respectful when he was in net in the playoff. But for you as a young guy, what was going through your mind back then?
So it would have been the next season after my rookie season. Yarrow was playing really well. I don't think I was playing very well at the time. I was going through my own development pains. And, as a young goaltender, everybody kind of goes through these stages of development. And I wasn't particularly playing very well. And my confidence level wasn't that high. And then Yarrow took over and, played lights out, and in my mind, I was like, well, there's 2 ways I can go about this. I can either sit there and pout, or I could just work my nuts off and see where it goes from there. So we went on an unbelievable run in that playoffs that year, and I felt like I handled myself pretty well. I got in really good shape, and I kind of figured, well, if they're gonna choose him, that's the way it's gonna be. It's out of my control, and if that's the way it's gonna be, I'm gonna go somewhere else and try and have a career anyway.
But was it like I don't want to say wake up call, but is that something that gave
Turning
you a little
point?
kick in the butt?
For sure, 100%. Yeah, because nobody I'd been a starting goalie my whole life. I hadn't rode the pine behind somebody. I rode the pine a bit behind Cristobal in my rookie season, but I'd really been like the guy for forever. Yeah. So watching somebody else do something that I wanted to be doing was kind of like, okay, well, it's time to pull out my socks.
Is it the first time that you really felt the Montreal pressure, the media and everything?
I think I started to feel it. I don't know. It's like, I think it's kind of like right from the get-go, you kind of feel it. I think when I was drafted, one of my first interviews, the fellow was like, like a lot of people say that the 2 hardest jobs in Canada are being a prime minister and being a goalie for the Montreal Canadiens. I was like, oh, it's boy. True. Yeah. So it's like, I kind of like right from that moment, I was like, well, it is what it is. Like there's only so many things you can control. Pressure is going to be pressure. But I think I think I really started to feel it like when we started to lose against Philadelphia, you know, in my rookie season. Like we had a really good series against Boston, beat them in 7 games. And then like the latter part of that Philadelphia series, like it just like was almost a little bit overwhelming at times.
Yeah, we had Patrick Roy last week, and he was saying the same thing. He was talking about the pressure, but he said that he was really, really nervous. That sometimes he was crying in the plane when he arrived in Colorado. In your case, you always look so calm. Were you that calm inside?
Not all the time, no. I feel like the worst part about, or the hardest part about pressure is the times like leading up to a game more so than when you're in it. You know, like I think you kind of like start thinking about, you know, what could happen as opposed to what you want to happen, you know. So I think over the course of my development throughout my career, I kind of like changed my mindset a little bit, you know. I think that really helped.
Yeah, for sure.
What's the moment you felt like the most nervous? We're talking like, I remember your first game against Pittsburgh. Like that was pretty fun. That was pretty good. But was that a big moment, like nervously?
I think, I don't know. I think I was nervous, but I think like that game, I think I was more scared than anything. Like you're going into Pittsburgh, you're playing against Malkin and Crosby, and like, you know, like it was like. But I've always kind of felt like those situations kind of like help bring out the best in you too sometimes, you know. So I don't know. I was just more excited and like I said, a little bit scared. So I just felt like this is it. Like let's go, you know.
We've talked about a lot of subjects lately about you. You're talking about like mental health and all that, and that's not what I want to talk now. But you had kind of a sequence in the middle of your career in Montreal. You remember the chill out and all that, and it was tough. No, but I remember it was like tough to go grocery shopping and all that. What did you learn at that time, and was it the beginning of the real pressure in your career?
Yeah, for sure. I was like, you know, and playing here.
That was awesome, by the way.
Well, there's like peaks and valleys, you know, like it's just like here is like the high of highs and the low of lows here. I think like, and as an athlete, you understand that it's really important to keep kind of an even keel. Yeah. You know, so I think like, you know, I don't think it helps that, you know, like things are over dramatized here, you know. That I think is one kind of weakness of being here. Like it's everybody knows it. Like so I think it takes a special type of person to be able to come here and kind of ignore that and just kind of focus on what's the next step to turning the ship around or keeping the ship going in the right direction.
Do you feel we have the question a lot? Do you feel we were surrounded a lot, like help? Like in nutrition or psychologists or like people around us back then?
Not as much as today. You know, I feel like today, like the Canadians do a really good job. Like we have like a sports nutritionist. We have a sports psychologist. You know, like I think over the like. Back, it was a long time ago when we were playing. Let's be honest.
We're old, man.
Like that was like
60 pounds ago.
Yeah, like it was like we were coming out of a different generation of hockey players that kind of just, you know, gritted their teeth, pulled their socks up, and got the job done. And I think the NHL and sports in general are doing a lot better job as far as the mental health aspect. Like I think it's important that we keep pushing that and making these things available, because I think it can make a big difference for kids that are maybe struggling with pressure, or, you know, the pressures of not only like performance, keeping your job, dealing with, you know, media pressures. I think these things are really important to have. I
think you did well too. Like lately, like that we say that the fact that you come out talking about mental health and all that, it's always you affect more people because everybody in Montreal loves you. In Quebec, even. Why did you decide? Because you're a pretty quiet guy, and I'll be honest, we were both surprised that you decided to talk about it openly. And where did that come from, and why?
Well, it's like everybody can appear. Everything's about appearances, especially like on a hockey team. You know, like especially as like in like a leadership position or a veteran guy. Like everybody looks up to you, and you are always putting on, a calm facade at the rink all the time, because everybody's looking at you towards like, how's this guy doing?
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that you're not nervous or maybe struggling. And I think it's important that you take care of yourself too. Like it's really, I think it's really important that you be able to get things off your chest as opposed to just holding them in, especially if you don't feel like you have anybody to talk to. Like I've always had my dad to be able to bounce things off of, but I think you can't talk about everything with everybody, and being able to find like a therapist to talk to and really just air it out really helps.
Did you have a player like on the team like you can open up him?
Like throughout my career, I've had a lot of guys that I've been closer with than others. You know how it is on teams. You just kind of get along better with other people. So, throughout the years, I've had several guys that I've really gotten along with. Like Peter Budai was a guy that I played with for a number of years. He was really easy to talk to. Like Webbs and Petrie recently, those two guys that I get along really well with are easy to talk to. So, I think you got to know your audience and know who really cares for you.
Yeah, and somebody that's not going to bring it back to the team or is going to change attitude. I think that's
exactly.
That's important.
You're talking about Weber, Petrie. We're going to honor a guy like PK Subban next week, I think, or something. Yeah. We want to hear, because we think about the 0005. Is that what it was called? Like, what was your chemistry with PK, and what was it for you, like, to have a special player like that on your team?
Yeah, PK was one of those guys that was another one of those guys that was always really to talk to. And when PK was on the team, everything was always entertaining. I always really appreciated the energy that he brought to the room. Like he was always very positive. Brought like positive energy. He was always happy to be at the rink, and that's something that I missed when he was gone.
For sure.
He's just a character. He's one of those guys that it's just enjoyable to be around. I remember, like, a good way to put it would be, I remember I was talking to Hal Gill, another one of those kind of outgoing guys, fun to be around. His skills, he came to me. It's like, if I'm ever being too much, just say you're all skilled out. And I feel like I had that kind of same thing for PK. There's some days you come to the rink and you just want to be left alone, and I think being able to take a step back and really communicate, like, PK, just leave me alone today.
Just for today. Do you think he changed the game in a way? Like, because hockey was very conservative, like straight all the time. Do you think he changed that part?
Yeah, for sure. I think he definitely was a part of that. I feel like he definitely changed the mold. Everybody was so conformative. Like cookie cutter. Like kind of this is how we do it. Like very like, very very square. And PK really brought a whole new personality to the game.
How the atmosphere changed when you get a guy like PK getting traded against like Shea Weber? That's the opposite. Like it changed the room basically.
Yeah. So when Webbs came in, like, he's very much more of the old school. Like,
was he already a friend, Webbs, at that time?
I had been skating with him in Kelowna.
Okay.
I'd been living in Kelowna for a number of years. We weren't like particularly close, like different teams. Like we'd hang out every once in a while, but Webbs is like very much like lead by example, like gritty, like everything you'd want out of like a captain. Like held people accountable. So I think there's personality traits from both players that we could use, but Webbs brought like a different type of personality, like that really like accountability, really thought the game well, help manage like what we needed to do, like really like communicated with the coaching staff. He was really like the leadership qualities that a team needs.
Yeah, but I was looking at the video when you guys lost to Tampa Bay in the finals, and everybody is going to shake his hand. Like what was the feeling at that time? Because we didn't know the story or anything, but back then I feel like you guys knew it was probably his last game, and there was a lot of emotion.
Yeah, for sure. So, there's a lot of emotions going on at that point. Like, you come so close to achieving your goal. It's basically like a hockey player's worst nightmare, like going all the way, putting in all that work and coming up short at the end. Like, I remember like every year, like you always feel for the other guys that don't get that opportunity. So, you know, we knew that he was close to the end. I'd like, you know, we didn't know it was going to be over for sure because you don't know. Like, but yeah, it was definitely.
You were hoping it would come back, but you wanted to live that special moment for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely an emotional time.
How was it like all the stretch, the playoff stretch? That was crazy. Like I remember when Lekanen scored that goal on June 24th. Like that was, the city was just crazy. How you guys lived through that?
Yeah, it's like, it was different, like because of the COVID year, you know. So we didn't have like fans in the stands. So it felt like playoff hockey, but it didn't quite feel like playoff hockey for those first couple of rounds. It wasn't until we started going to Vegas and playing in front of a full building that it actually felt like playoff hockey. And then it was just like, we just got like supercharged, you know, because we've been playing in front of empty buildings all year in Canada.
But was there a part like because you played here with a full building that you were mad? Like it's like I can't believe there's no fans.
100%, yeah. Like it was such a like, it's such an emotional boost. Like you know, like your energy just gets supercharged. You're amped up. Like, and then when we started going to Vegas, I just felt like I could like jump over the net, being able to play in front of a full building. You know.
We've seen your physical testing, and you cannot jump over the net.
Terrible, Bert.
Don't hurt yourself.
Guillaume?
Oh no, I try to find a way to ask my the question.
Just say it like it's in your head. It's gonna be funny.
Criticism.
It's a special edition of La Poche Bleue with an accent.
Yeah, with an accent. You've been through a lot of things. Like, talk to us. We talk about the playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoff, but like winning World Cups, winning Olympics, and things like that. That should be pretty crazy too. Like playing with Crosby and all those good players in Canada.
Yeah, so I've had the opportunity to play on Team Canada a couple of times at a pro level, and the thing that's always amazing about playing on Team Canada is just, you know, one, you're playing with, you know, at least a dozen like captains on a team, so there's so much leadership.
Yeah, you're right.
You know, then everybody else is at least an A on their team. You know, so there's so much leadership. And then the second part of that is when you go play for Team Canada, all you have to do is worry about doing your job. You know, everybody thinks the game so well and communicates so well. Like, I just know when I was on the ice that I just had to worry about this. I didn't have to worry so much about, you know, what was going on around me. You know, I knew that everybody's job was going to be taken care of. So it really like kind of simplifies your game.
Sure. Who's the leader of leaders? Like when you walk in the room and they're all there, like who's the guy that still has a little something over everyone else?
Oh man, it's hard to pick one guy out. You know, like during the Olympics, like, you know, Sid obviously everybody looks up to Sid. Like he's the best player in the world at the time. Patrice, you know, Bergie, like it's hard not to look at those two guys and just they exemplify what it is to be a leader, you know.
So they're not shy, let's say, to get up and speak in the room.
Yeah.
Wow.
The excitement, is it different when you get to the Stanley Cup final and when you get to the Olympics final? Is it way different or?
I don't know. It's hard to compare the two. It's like when we were at the Olympics, it was over in Sochi. So you're not playing in front of like a full building, you know? So I think like a lot of the pressure is like, I think a lot of it is kind of like internal almost, you know, like when you're playing in front of a full building, it kind of brings that pressure into the building a little bit more because everybody's sitting on edge the whole time. But when we were over in Sochi playing, you know, the building wasn't full. Like I think it was only like probably half full, maybe like a few families, you know, from each team, you know. So it really felt different, and I felt like most of that pressure was kind of internal.
And is it fun, like, to be around other sports? Like you meet the best of the best from every sport?
It was pretty cool being able to go to like the mess hall, you know, being able to see like other athletes from all different types of sports. I only ever really went and saw, I think I went and watched long track speed skating. I watched curling, and that was pretty much it. Like I was like, because your time is flipped basically where we were at. So I spent most of the time that I wasn't playing resting or preparing for the next game because it's, you know, you're playing every other day, practicing. So I spent most of my time just trying to focus on on what we were doing.
When you get there, most of the other countries, they have the chance to practice together during the winter. It's not the case for Canada, US. Is there any team bonding? Is there a lot of meetings? How does it work when you arrive there?
Yeah, a lot of meetings. I think that's one thing I always hated about playing hockey was meetings, man. I don't know, like
it must suck for a goalie too, like it's like who cares about the forecheck?
Well, exactly. Like there's only so many things that pertain to a goaltender. So we'd be talking about the forecheck, and I'd be wondering how the plumbing works in the ceiling. So I don't know. When it came to Team Canada, it was like I think everybody thinks the game so well.
Yeah.
And, like you just tell everybody, okay, this is what we're going to do. And everybody knows exactly what their job is to do. So it was like, it's
no need for a meeting.
Go do it, So I think like,
are you saying there's no dumb player like me? Is that the point right now?
Not as many, But I don't know. Like that summer, we had the opportunity to get together. Like it was right after my wedding, or our wedding, I should say. So me and Angela got married in August, and the next day I flew to Calgary to go for the orientation camp, and that's kind of when we started. We had a pretty large group of people getting together, a lot of players and staff and everybody. We got together and kind of had a bit of team bonding, but I feel like on Team Canada, a lot of these guys are familiar with each other because they're typically going to any kind of event like All-Star games, whatever. You see guys around, and so you kind of get familiar with them. So, you get a little bit of bonding when you get there, but then when it comes to on the ice, like I said, just everybody knows their job.
Yeah. You're talking about All-Star games. What was the feeling? It must be, even if you're a star yourself, to talk to guys like Ovechkin, Crosby, whoever in the league. What All-Star game impressed you the most, and which player for you was wow, I can't believe I'm with him?
I think I'll always remember the All-Star game in Montreal.
Yeah. Is that when Mark Streit fell in the remember during the lap?
I think he tripped over
the little fence.
So they put white signs on the ice, so you're skating around, you don't see a white thing on the ice, and he fell over. It was pretty funny. But I think that Montreal All-Star game, I'll always remember. That whole weekend was just crazy, being able to spend time with I'm like a young guy still at this point, this is my kind of my first opportunity to be able to hang out with all-stars, in a dressing room. It's kind of wow, this is freaking awesome.
It's like a dream. Huh?
Is it a pain in the ass a little bit? Because for a goalie, it's the worst place to go in an All-Star game, but at the same time, you have your pride. You don't want to get 10 goals in. Yeah,
I think it went relatively well. I think I only let in 2 or 3 goals, I think. Yeah, it's a goalie's nightmare, that thing. But I don't know. It was like I said, I was just kind of like a young guy, just kind of enjoying the moment. We were having fun on the ice and off the ice, and being able to spend some time with guys that you wouldn't normally, kind of break out of the cycle and get to meet some other players is pretty fun.
Are you when you got drafted by Montreal, you look at all the history and all the good players that were there, and now you're the best goalie as far as wins for the team? Were you is it sometimes you pinch yourself saying, wow, I did that?
Yeah, for sure. I don't think it's even totally hit me to this point, it's been such when you're in the game, I feel you're just so focused on what you're doing, you don't really have time to reflect on anything while you're playing, you're just, okay, what's the next step? What's the next goal? So I don't think I really I've had a lot of time to reflect on that, but I'm very proud of, looking back on what I've accomplished, thus far has been I'm just so proud to have been the goaltender for the Montreal Canadiens,
Yeah, because we also talk about that often. You still make the decision to steer your whole career, because whoever player, whatever the salary in life, you can move. There's always a way to do something. And I want to know, there came a time where Seattle came in the picture. We were talking about the extension draft and all that. What was the process of that? Was it I'm gonna go because I know they're not gonna pick me, or because of my salary, or were you just helping the team? What was the
Yeah.
Came to you? Did you go to the team?
Well, I think it was like a few days before, and I talked to Berge about it, and I was just like kind of had a feeling that they weren't going to be picking me because of the contract and like stage of my career. I was like, I think we can do a solid here if we expose me, because I really doubt that it's going to happen. So I felt like it was a tactical move to be able to protect another player.
Okay, that's the answer we were hoping for.
Two good memories are like lately happened when you got to the first game, the presentation, the way the warm welcome from the crowd. How do you feel?
It was like a movie.
Yeah, it was
man,
pretty.
I'll tell you something. You look pretty good there with your cowboy hat. And
Yeah.
you used to be a shoe model, but I think you had a chance for another level there.
Yeah, man, it was something that I'll never forget. Like, it's just like such an embracing love that it's always fun to like hear your name like chanted. Yeah. But like that was different. Like that felt like a true like appreciation, you know, and it really was like heartwarming because it was something that I needed, you know.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. You can feel the love, the love from everybody.
Yeah.
I felt personally like everybody was saying we're with you.
Yeah, for sure. And that's that's something that I'll never forget and always be very appreciated about.
For sure. When you think about Montreal, you know, like I was a Fort liner and I had a tough time walking in the city. So I'm thinking about a guy like you. Is there things in your head that you wish, like, let's say there's nobody in Montreal, you would do a restaurant, you would go, an activity you would have done, like something you're like, right now you're like, I cannot go there because I won't even be able to walk.
I feel like, over like the past couple of years, I feel like it's been like that most of my career. Like really, like, yeah, it's very rare that I'm going to go, to a trampoline park with my kids and not be approached by at least, 3 or 4 people. Like I've just kind of gotten used to the fact that that's the way it's going to be.
But would you jump if nobody was watching?
I jumped on once. And then, but like, I feel like for the overwhelming majority of people that approach me are very courteous.
For sure.
And that's, I don't think like somebody who's like comes to approach a player is going to be rude. Like
no,
that's not the point of going to interact with somebody, like it's usually like to get a picture taken or have an autograph signed, and that's totally fine. Like that's great. Like I've always like there's days where you're going through your life where you're just kind of like you just want to be able to go to Walmart in your pajamas and pick up your Doritos and just live your life.
Won't happen.
But I feel like I've always tried to keep in mind, for the most part, a lot of these people, that might be the only time they ever interact with you, you know. So it's just like you always try and make like a positive interaction, because that might be their only impression they ever get with you. Don't get me wrong, there's days where I just want to live my life, so I might be a little bit shorter. That I'm not trying to be rude to you. I'm just just trying to go about my day. But like I feel like I've always tried to keep that in mind. Like this is somebody who's supported you and just wants to have a quick interaction with you.
100%.
Now that you have kids, does it change your mind a little bit?
Yeah, it's like I feel like I think one big thing, my daughter is 6 now, 6.5. And she's starting, like, it's been just over the last, like, year and a half, she started to, like, ask questions about, why does this person want to take a picture with my father? She was just kind of, like, thrown off like that a little bit. I don't think it's been until recently where she's understanding how important hockey is to this community.
Yeah, because we saw you this summer, like at the Alouettes, the football game. That was pretty nice to watch. Your daughter bringing the autograph to you. That was a nice moment.
Yeah, she's a pretty good photographer too. She's taken a lot of pictures of me and other people.
That's awesome. We heard a story this week on Spinning Chicklets. Eric Cole was talking about the time he gave you that product for your eyes.
Oh man, I'll never forget it. Like I think we wound up like he gave me these drops, and I thought it burned my retinas. like this, like, I'll never forget. Like, I thought I went out in warm-ups and I felt like I wasn't going to be able to see. Like, by the time I got out there, it was fine. But yeah, Colsey got me hooked on the eye drops. I think I've been an eye drop guy ever since. Yeah.
They were wondering if you're still using that product.
No, I haven't. I don't know if the FDA is still approving that stuff.
We talk about your kids, but one of the greatest moments from your career, I think, is the young kid you brought.
Anderson, I think
Anderson,
his name was.
That was what came through your mind when you saw that kid.
Yeah, I still actually keep in contact with the young man, and I didn't know what he was there for at the time. I just had come off the ice for a morning skate, and I just kind of saw the kid there, and he looked like he wanted an autograph, so I just stopped. Like, I was like, okay, I'll give him an autograph. We got some time here. And then he was like, kind of like, you could see it in his face, like he was very like emotional, like kind of like distraught a little bit, and I feel like he just needed like a little extra, so I'm a very compassionate person, so I just felt like I just needed to embrace the kid, and like I just kind of took off from there. Like, I didn't know it was being filmed, I didn't know any of that, and it just kind of steamrolled a little bit, and I'm just happy to have helped a kid in a tough spot.
For sure. Yeah, that was a tough to watch. Like, you can feel the emotion from the kid. We want to move to the fun stuff now. Not that this is not fun, but this is not the type of podcast we have. We want to hear about rookie nights, and you have one in the AHL, NHL. I think we were wondering, you weren't with us, right? Ours was in New York.
Yeah.
Yours was in...
Mine was in Tampa.
Oh.
Oh, yeah.
Cut.
We were there. We were there.
Okay. Expensive or not expensive?
It wasn't too bad. Like, I think my rookie bill came up to be like $6,500 or $7,000, somewhere in that area. So it wasn't too bad. I remember Kovalev, he'd bought like a wine from like, I want to say it was from like 1890 or something. And I was like, man, I'd love to try a little bit of that. So by the time it came around to me, I had like the last bit, like the last centimeter of it, and it was basically all the sludge at the bottom of the
1890? Seriously?
Yeah, I remember Georgie was like, that's a wine like 1800 something. I remember that. I don't know why.
Wow. That's unreal.
It's not like I was talking to Georgie a lot.
It was probably like $5,000 for that bottle or something, I bet.
So when you get after the year after, do you say I'm gonna make them pay? Like, did you pick something? Like Dandy, I remember, took some steak knives in Dallas.
Dandy took some steak knife. Was it on our bill?
No, I don't think so. I remember that. I don't know why.
I don't. Man, I was in a bad spot, I think, by the end of that day. I remember the next morning, like we had practice the next day, and I'm thinking, how the heck am I going to get through this day? So I had to go over to Rolly. I was like, look, I don't think I'm going to be able to go down. I'm not going to be able to do a butterfly today because I'm in a bad spot.
That's unreal. Great moments.
We have I have one last question about we talk about mental health and everything, and you talk about like your alcohol abuse and things like that. How you get into the program, how you get, who you call first, how you talk to your wife about that.
Yeah, so like the NHL has obviously their substance abuse program or player assistance program, which is it's a good program to provide for players, whether it's mental health or substance abuse or whatever. And I just felt like at that time I was overdoing it. Like I started out like drinking for fun. Like it was, you go out and have fun with the guys, but like over my career, like I felt like I was always very good at it, like I very much excelled at it. But, I kind of came to a point where I was like, this isn't fun anymore, and I need to stop. So, and I always had a very hard time. You always wake up on Sunday morning thinking, I'm never going to do that again. But I always did it again, so I just felt like it came to a point in my life where I really needed to stop. And I just thought, I think this is a good time to ask for help, And I think that's one of the hardest steps to, breaking bad habits, is making that first, realization and saying, I need some help. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I think like everybody asks for help in their life with whatever. So I just felt like at that time in my life that was the appropriate move to make. And I'm thankful that I did it, and it's worked out for me.
Because everybody is always wondering what does that mean, help? Like, what did he do with you? Did he just talking, or is there like a diet? Like, what's the plan as soon as they start helping you?
Yeah, so like the NHL, they basically put you in a program. So there's a couple of different ways you can go about it. You can either go to a facility, or you can do it at home. And I just felt like, for me, I needed to take a step away and go somewhere and really reset my mindset. And I went to a place that was very much a place where I felt kind of at home and comfortable with.
Yeah.
So being able to go there and being able to talk to other people who have gone through some really hard times, and where I went, there's some very smart people, like very functioning, like everyday people that you would never know had problems. Like, and just being able to hear some stories and relate to other folks who have gone through similar situations, maybe not being an NHL hockey player, but are going through everyday life and are having a tough time, and being able to just reset my mind and create some accountability for myself has really been a life changer.
Is it hard to open up when you know that everybody is looking at you, basically, because you're Carey Price?
I think that's, for a lot of NHL players, I think that's probably the hardest first step. It's probably the hardest first step, I think, for most people that are struggling, is the judgment. And I think, like, once you step past that and understand that, people aren't judging you, and you can be able to take pride and just being, yourself when you're going out. Like, for me, when I was going out, I always drank a lot to be social. I'm very kind of introverted by nature, and get a lot of social anxiety when it comes to being in large groups. And you wouldn't think that, but that's just the way I am. And that kind of led to excessive drinking, and I just felt like being able to change my mindset going into functions and being able to just be who I am and being comfortable doing that has really been a change.
How relief are you after? Because it's not just for the alcohol. Let's say when you're done with that, you must feel like now you're part of, I don't want to say of the humans, but finally people see that you're not just a robot, can maybe be yourself a little more.
It's I think it's I think hockey players in general, you kind of get when you're playing hockey, I think a lot of people, they don't necessarily see you as an everyday person. You just kind of see a uniform, and you see a character on the ice, and I think being able to step away from that and bring some reality to a situation may help.
We have one little segment. It's going to take 5 minutes, and then you're free. We play that game with everyone, and we always have some great answer. It's called "On se vide le sac." In French, means empty your bag.
Yeah.
Some people could think it's empty your balls, but empty your bag will be better. Simon, if you can put the first question in the worst student jobs. Have you ever had a student job, or?
So the only student job I had, well, one was making barbed wire fence in Alberta. That sucked. And then my student job in high school was I worked at a golf course. I was I worked behind the desk at a golf course, so it wasn't too bad.
Are you a good player?
I think I got down to about a 5 handicap.
Oh wow!
This summer.
That's really good for Lappy.
Yeah, I played a lot of golf in high school.
Okay.
So I kind of kept that. Now I just kind of golf occasionally.
That's awesome.
Nice.
Didn't know about you.
No.
Worst fight with the bus.
Oh, I'm not a very confrontational person by nature. I think
I feel like you have a good one. You have a smirk on the right side right now.
Am I going there?
Well, I'm only it would be only my student job. My the course director got really mad at me for going on Facebook while I was working. So we got in a good tilt about that, but that's about it.
I like that.
Smo, next one. Worst fear. We've seen, by the way, can't use. The new GM, his fear is to drive on bridge.
Really?
Bridge.
Yeah.
He doesn't drive on a bridge.
Well, I think mine would be teenage daughters.
Yeah. Yeah, we're in the same boat for that one.
I like that. Most impressive person you've met?
Oh man, I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of people in my life who've really impressed me, but you know, it always comes back to the same person. Like my parents. Like I know it's so stereotypical, and it's so true that like my dad is such a down to earth person and so selfless, and my mom is such a hard worker that, you know, there's two people that I've looked up to most in this life.
Good answer. First paycheck. What was the purchase? What have you done with it? Or did you buy a country or?
I think I paid the bill for my rent downtown in Montreal.
Something fun. Let's say that you bought with your first paycheck.
I don't even remember, man. I think it was probably like a set of golf clubs or something fun like that.
Nice.
Best experience, like we talk about everything, but I'm sure off the ice you did experience crazy experience.
Whatever it's seeing like a NFL Super Bowl game or like a travel, something you discovered or.
You know, outside of like, you know, family stuff, which is always the most important thing. One of the best experiences I've ever had was be able to go on an alpine mule deer hunt with a friend of mine or a couple friends of mine. So we went up a mountain together for 4 days, and we spent 4 days in the backcountry. Like, I'm from Anahim Lake. This fellow's from Namaya Valley, or the other two guys are from Namaya Valley, the neighboring band. And we spent 4 days up on the mountain, just kind of like getting to know each other and being able to see like a sow grizzly with a cub, you know, seeing a mountain goat, you know, being able to find a nice mule deer. Like that's one of the best experiences I've had.
Just like, let's say walking with a tent, no cabin or anything. Like
Yeah, so I packed a tent up the hill and slept on an air mattress
with a grizzly next to you. That's
yeah. We saw there was bear shit everywhere. Like, you know, like
crazy.
it's just like one of the most epic like experiences of my life, being able to spend some time in a traditional territory where, you know, our neighbors have spent generations hunting, and it was just a fun experience.
Well, I can promise you there would have been Lappy shit next to the grizzly shit. Damn.
Last one, the Lappy's favorite question.
Good timing, and we had some very good answer to that one. Most embarrassing poop. We've had guys from Roberto Luongo that went out of the ice in overtime to guys that did a little poop in their pants in a meeting or whatever.
Well,
And you're pretty good at that, I remember, right?
yeah, I'm full of it. All right. Well, I remember one time I was pretty embarrassed. Like we were getting bag skated by Carbo, I think, one time, and I felt so bad. I had to shit so bad. Like, and I left right before a bag skate and came back right at the end, and I can just feel like everybody was like looking at me because I just skipped out on a bag skate to go take a shit.
That's a good trick.
Oh, I felt shame.
You probably used that one a few times.
Don't
too.
worry. Tough rookie camp too. I was always sick.
Hey, that's awesome, and we thank you very much. Sorry for our English because
You
we're
can
not
say
used
mine.
No, mine as well. But we just appreciate a lot the fact that you came here, took time, old teammates, you know, and wish you the best. We think you're very good old teammates, and can't wait to see what's next for you.
Yeah, thanks, guys. I mean, we had a lot of fun together when we were playing. You know, it doesn't seem like very long ago. Like,
But it is.
It is.
It
You
is
know,
a long time
it
ago.
went by very fast. So I knew we were going to be able to sit down today and just shoot the shit a little bit and catch up. I'm sure we could probably do this for a couple more hours pretty easy. But
100%.
you know, thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. All right, good job, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
A big thanks.